Joining me, Sky News Northern Australia correspondent Matt Cunningham. Matt Cunningham, thanks for your time. Well, yet another person stabbed to death in Darwin, a woman this time, and outside the hotel where Linda Burney, the Indigenous Australians Minister, just happened to be staying. What signal should that send the Minister?
Well, as we've reported many times before, Andrew, the rates of domestic violence suffered by Aboriginal women in the Northern Territory are far, far higher than the rates of domestic violence anywhere else in the country. In fact, if you go back a few years, Marcia Langton said on the Q&A program that Aboriginal women were more than 34 times more likely to be the victims of domestic violence, in some cases up to 80 times more likely to be hospitalised as a result of domestic violence. There's been a lot of questioning of data around all sorts of issues relating to the Northern Territory at the moment. In fact, when Marcia Langton said that a few years ago, it was sent off to the fact checkers and they came back and said that what she was saying is true. I don't think you can deny any of the statistics in this place. Aboriginal women in the Northern Territory are far more likely to be victims of domestic violence, and we've seen another tragic episode on Friday night where a woman has been stabbed to death on the Darwin Esplanade.
It seems to me some people are trying to ignore the dysfunction in some Aboriginal communities, like trying to posit, you know, it's almost like Eden and let's go for the voice. I don't look. It's just driving me nuts. They're in denial, and one aspect of that, Matt, Labor, for instance, has been attacking Opposition Leader Peter Dutton for days now for saying that he's been told horrific stories of abuse of Aboriginal children around Alice Springs and of children even being sent back to the homes where they were abused. And, you know, the criticism from Labor, from the Prime Minister down, why didn't he report it to police? He's exploiting it. The police minister saying it's a dog act even. I mean, disgraceful. But that Labor attack seems undermined by something that Labor's own federal minister in Lingiari, Marion Scrimgeour, has now said. Take us through that.
Well, she said a few things, Andrew. She was on ABC Radio in Alice Springs last Friday, and basically she was telling Kate Worden, the Minister for Territory Families in charge of child protection, to concentrate on her job. But she was talking about the children that are wandering the streets of Alice Springs, between 50 and 100 children who can be seen there on any given night. And Marion Scrimgeour said really that the Territory's Child Protection Department really needs to lift its game. I interviewed Marion Scrimgeour today. She says she's more concerned about the issue of neglect than child sex abuse, although she did make the point unprompted when I spoke to her today that one of the key drivers when it comes to abuse is neglect, and that children who are neglected are far more likely to be abused. Andrew, you only have to look back to that case that we covered in 2018 of that 2-year-old Aboriginal girl from Tennant Creek who was raped, and the report that was done by the Children's Commissioner from the Northern Territory, Colleen Gwynn, that found that girl and her siblings had been the subject of 52 notifications to child protection authorities and police in the years leading up to that incident, and yet nothing was done to keep that girl safe. So I know that there's people trying to scrutinise the data here around these issues. I know people are trying to say, well, you know, show us the evidence, Peter Dutton, of what's happening there. People here on the ground will tell you anecdotally they hear this sort of evidence regularly. I was in Alice Springs in January. I spoke to a doctor there who told me some horrific stories, including one of 2 children who'd been abused by their drunken mother, brought into the Alice Springs hospital. This doctor told me that Territory Families had been called and wanted to send the children home with their mother. So I think there are some real issues here, real issues that have been happening for a long time, real issues that need to be addressed. And I think most people here would like to see the focus on doing something about those issues rather than this political slanging match that's going on at the moment.